Hello students, welcome back to Nucleus Neet Foundation Academy and myself Kiran Kumar, Biology Neet faculty. Students, today I am very happy and I want to tell you that the subscriber number is gradually increasing, and that is because of your efforts only. You are sharing the videos, please do it. We have to increase the subscriber base on our channel, so we will be benefited. Because of that, you will be benefited and also myself will be benefited. So don't forget to share the videos to your friends. Okay students, and another suggestion I want to tell you that after returning from school, you give 1 hour time for your NEET preparation. So in order to achieve your life goal to become a doctor, you should start preparing from now itself. So every day 1 hour, if you give time for NEET preparation, then you will definitely win a seat in best medical college. Okay, that is for sure. So how you have to prepare for NEET examination? So first of all, find a study room without any disturbance. Okay, use a laptop or a tab. Okay, whatever you have you can use. You can use a laptop, or if you have a tab you can also use a tab, but please don't use mobile phone to watch my videos. In mobile phone there will be small screen. Okay, in that small screen you cannot see the letters whatever I wrote, so that will be the main problem. So select a calm room without any disturbance. Put your laptop or tab on the table, take a notebook, take a pen, okay, and then start listening to my classes. Each and every point you note down in your notebook, put the date and write down the notes. Okay, so in that way, if you write the notes for yourselves, it will be easy for you to revise. Okay, at the end of the chapter I will be sending you material. Okay, so in that material you will have lot of multiple choice questions in different models. Okay, and also I will explain how to solve that MCQs, multiple choice questions. So you have to sit and you have to solve the multiple choice questions. Any doubts you have, then you can ask me in the comment section. Then I will be making separate videos in order to explain you how to solve those difficult types of multiple choice questions. Okay students, now let us start part 5 video of the living world. So this is part 5 of the first chapter, living world, right? In the last class we were discussing about the characters of living organisms, isn't it? So in today's class the topic is going to be diversity in living world. Diversity in living world. So what is diversity? The varieties and variations of different living organisms is called as diversity. So under that subtopic is biodiversity. So biodiversity word is having two words. Bio is separate word, diversity is separate word. So what is the meaning of biodiversity? Biodiversity means it is variety and variability in various levels of life. I repeat, it is variety and variability in various levels of life. So if you go around your house and check the different types of living organisms, you can find n number of organisms: grass, plants, trees, crows, buffaloes, goats, etc., etc. Okay, so suppose if you go on an expedition, on an exploration to some new place like Ooty and Kodaikanal, so there what you can find new types of organisms which you haven't find near your house, isn't it? So the types of organisms are increasing and increasing as you are exploring new areas. So the varieties and variations which we can see among the living organisms in different levels of organization of life, we call it as biodiversity. Okay, my dear students, in order to understand the term biodiversity, we will do one simple field experiment. Okay, so do you have a measuring tape in your house? Okay, take a measuring tape. So in that you take one foot length. By using 1 foot length, you make one square near your house. You mark one square near your house. So the height will be 1 feet, width will be 1 feet. So that is called 1 square foot area. And try to count the different types of living organisms in that small box. Okay, you will get grass plants, you will find ants, you will find earthworms. Okay, so in that small area you cannot expect different types of organisms. You cannot find lizards, goats, cows, etc. in that small area. Okay, only small creatures and limited number of organisms you will find. Okay, so that means the biodiversity in that small area is less. Understood, students? Now you make a square. If you try to make a square by 1 kilometer by taking a length of 1 kilometer width and 1 kilometer height, then that area is called as 1 square kilometer. So what is that area? 1 square kilometer. In 1 square kilometer, carefully, if you try to count the different types of organisms, what different types of organisms we may find? Now look here, students. We may find different varieties of insects, isn't it? Ants, grasshoppers, scorpions, butterflies, honeybees, isn't it? Different varieties of insects you will find. And you will find garden lizards, you will find dogs, you will find goats, hens, crows, pigeons. See, the number of organisms is more if you explore a large area. And what about plants? You can find neem trees, mango tree, rose plants, coconut trees, very large varieties of plants you can find. Isn't it, students? So from this, what you have understood, as we try to explore large areas, we will find more number of organisms. That is what is called as biodiversity. So our scientists, what they did is they started to count the different types of organisms which are living on the entire biosphere, on the entire surface of the earth. Okay, those which are living in the ocean and also those which are living on the land, both. Okay, so our scientists have come to one figure. So what is that figure? The number of species known to scientists is 1.7 to 1.8 million species. So the number of varieties of living organisms are 1.7 to 1.8 million varieties of species or organisms were found on the biosphere, on the earth. Okay, so is this number is fixed? No. Suppose if we explore new areas which haven't been explored before, then the chances of finding new organisms will increase, isn't it? So continuously new organisms have been identified when scientists are exploring new areas. Okay, so now we will try to understand the term species. We are going to understand the term species, a technical term, species, which is very, very important. So what are species? What is species? Species are organisms which can freely interbreed and reproductively isolated from other groups. So I repeat, species are organisms which can freely interbreed. Freely interbreed means they can freely reproduce among themselves by sexual reproduction and reproductively isolated from other groups. They are isolated from other groups of animals by process called as reproduction. That means they cannot reproduce with other group of organisms. So then that group of organisms, we are calling them as species. In order to understand this concept of species, I will tell you one interesting example. Listen carefully. Suppose, imagine that there is one island. What is this? This is an island. So in this island, surrounding the island, there is full of water. There is completely water. So the organisms, the living organisms which are living in this island, they cannot move to other place because there is a water here. So the water will isolate these organisms from the rest of the world. The organisms which are living here, the organisms which are living in this island, they cannot move to other place. Okay. So in this island, there are some animals. Zebras are there. What animals are there? Zebras. Zebras are living. Imagine these are zebras. Zebras. Okay. In the same island, there are horses, wild horses. What are there? Wild horses are also living. Imagine these are wild horses. These are wild horses. The concept of species was given by Ernest Mayr. Note down this point, students. So in the island, there are two different populations. There is a population of zebra. There is a population of horse. There is a population of horse. Okay. So zebra is one species, horse is another species. Though both species are living in same area, in the same geographical area, though both species are sharing the same island, zebras will not reproduce with horses and horses will not reproduce with zebras. So that is what is called as reproductively isolated. What is that? Reproductively isolated. So what is reproductive isolation? One species cannot freely reproduce with other species. That is called as reproductively isolated. Okay. Then how they reproduce? Zebras will reproduce among zebras itself. Zebras will reproduce among zebras itself, and again they produce young ones, the children. And horses will reproduce among themselves. They will reproduce among themselves and produce baby horses, isn't it? So then this group of animals is called one species. This group of animals is called as another species. Zebra is totally one different species. Horse is different species. Okay. Though horse and zebra externally the appearance is little bit same, but they are completely different species. Understood, students? Understood the concept of species? Species are organisms which can freely interbreed. They can freely reproduce among themselves and reproductively isolated from other groups. They cannot reproduce with other species. Such group of organisms, we are calling them as species. Students, now can you tell some examples of species? Come on, try to tell. Just type in the comment box different types of species you know. Okay, I will tell some examples of species. Okay. Species of monkeys. Species of monkeys. Species of goats. Species of cows. Species of crows. Isn't it? Species of neem trees. Next, species of mango tree. So like this I can quote n number of examples. Okay. Mango tree cannot reproduce with other varieties of trees. A rose plant cannot reproduce with the jasmine tree. Okay, pollination will take place within the same group of plants. Pollen grain from a jasmine plant, when it falls on the flower of jasmine plant, then only the reproduction will take place. Pollen grain of mango plant, if it falls on the flower of mango plant, then only sexual reproduction takes place and fruit is formed. If pollen grain of mango tree, if it go and fall on some another plant like a guava plant, then can the guava plant produce a fruit? No. Okay. So that is what is the concept of species. I hope you have understood. Now let us move on to the next topic. Rules of binomial nomenclature. So by using these scientific names, now scientists, they are feeling very easy to communicate about different types of organisms. So a Indian scientist, he can easily tell about mango plant to another scientist who is there in Japan. Similarly, a scientist who is in Japan, he can tell about a mango tree to another scientist who is living in Australia. So there will be no confusion because of using this method called as binomial nomenclature. What are these names called? These names are called as scientific names. What are these names called? Scientific names. They are simply called as scientific names. These names are given scientifically, that's why they are called as scientific names. Okay. Students, now we will discuss what are the rules of binomial nomenclature. So what rules should be followed while giving name to an organism by scientific method. So we have just now we have seen the different types of scientific names. Mangifera indica, Oryza sativa, Felis catus, Homo sapiens, like this. Okay. So how these names were given, what criteria are followed in order to give this type of names, we will discuss. So Carolus Linnaeus, he have given some rules in order to name these living organisms. So the first rule is that only Latin words should be used while naming the organisms. So which language word should be used? Only Latin. Latin language words only should be used because the Latin words will not change in the future. Okay, it is a dead language. The words will not change in the future. That's why only Latin words will be used while naming the organisms. The second rule, first word represents the genus. So the first word in the scientific name, it represents the genus. It represents the genus. Here Mangifera is the genus, Oryza is genus, Felis is the genus, Homo is the genus. Understood? Next, second rule, second word represents the species. Second word represents the species. This is the second word. This second word, it represents the species of the organism. So in a scientific name, the first word will be genus and second word will be species. Understood everyone? Next, in genus, the genus name, the first letter should be capital. So in the genus name, the first letter, this is the first letter, this first letter should be capital. Look here, in Oryza, first letter is capital. In Felis, first letter is capital. So always while writing the genus name, the first letter should be capitalized. Okay. Next rule, in the species name, the first letter should be small. The first letter should be small. Look here. So in the species name, the first letter is small. I is small. Here S is small. Here C is small. So this rule should be compulsorily followed while writing the scientific name. Next, when it is written, when the scientific name is written on a paper, it should be underlined separately. So that is why we are underlining. Mangifera one underline, Indica one underline, Oryza one underline, Sativa another underline. Okay, so by using two underlines, we have to underline this genus and species separately. We should not underline with a single line. Understood? So this is another rule. Next, when printed, when scientific name is printed on paper, should use only italic font. So which type of font should be used? Only italic font should be used when the scientific name is printed on the paper. So these are the set of rules which are used during binomial nomenclature. Understood, students, everyone? Note down these points, very important for your NEET exam. Note down these points. Come on.